Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. This is the weekly landscape update video I do here in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B, in this garden project that's about 2 years old. At this point, this front garden space is only about a year old, really. Most everything in this front is went in during the season in 2021. And here we are at the beginning, or middle spring, late spring here in 2022. And things that were planted that are this tall, that were this tall, are now quite large, including this. This is Butterfly Towers butterfly bush series from the Southern Living Plant Collection. This is an upright, narrow butterfly bush. And if you followed last year, there's only about 2.5 feet between this curb and this fence I put in. And this thing just volunteers to just go perfectly vertical here. This is a white flowering variety, Butterfly Towers white. And it is budded up to start blooming. But I haven't had to cut on that thing at all. All the branching just goes perfectly vertical. So if you have a narrow space, want something upright that blooms for the pollinators, that's a good choice. A lot of the coneflowers, echinaceas that were done from seed here are very vigorous right now. We're starting to see some flowers on those. These got about 6 feet tall last year, so I'm expecting the same. I do leave the flowers even after they finish flowering. Some of my perennials I deadhead, but these coneflowers, the seeds are good for the birds as well. Moving further up, there's Asclepias or butterfly weed that came back from last year. I've planted 4 boxwoods in this landscape in the last week, and I'm excited to talk about these in the future. These are blight-resistant boxwoods. It's an upcoming release, again, a series of them. This particular one gets about this tall. I'll be able to talk about them next year, but it's pretty exciting that there are going to be some blight-resistant boxwoods. If you're unfamiliar, there's a disease called boxwood blight that's kind of devastated a lot of our boxwoods. These are the first scientifically tested boxwood blight resistant boxwoods. That's hard to say. Okay, moving on from that, there's several more echinacea out here. I love that yellow one. I mean, it has the look of a rudbeckia, really, but it's an echinacea. Really, I love that. I love that yellow. Pink Guara out here by the road. It's looking fantastic right now. Again, I think I'm going to do a tour of all the sedum that are in this landscape. I don't have like autumn joy. I don't have upright sedum. I've got lots and lots and lots of ground cover sedums. I think when more of them fill out like that, I'll do a tour of them. But you see, most of them are blooming. Yellow flowers. I've got pink flowering ones. I got white flowering ones. There's a lot of ground cover sedum out here. There's a bee balm that is starting to show some color. From last year that is quite vigorous. I might not have put this quite over to this edge. I don't know that I thought this one through, that it would come back that tall and that vigorous. I mean, I know bee balm gets this tall, but you know, I probably would have placed it back here and had something slightly smaller there. So it may end up transplanted at some point. Here's a white echinacea that's just starting to show some color. Several salvia that have been blooming for a while. If you've watched the pruning videos, I think you will have seen this May night salvia being pruned at this point. It's already had 1 round of flowering. Now it's been cut back. Second round of flowering is coming. Another echinacea along here. Some liatris that were done from starts last year here that have come back quite a bit more vigorous. Last year they bloomed this tall. This year, you know, they're 3 feet tall. A pruning video you will have not seen when you see this video is me butchering this serviceberry. It was probably 3 feet higher than this, and I really had to take some height out of it. It just doesn't have the caliper to support the kind of height that it has on it, and I'm going to end up having it staked forever. So I've got to kind of slow the tree down and thicken that up, but I talk about that in that pruning video that you'll see in the next few days. Down here below that, there are a lot of varieties of zinnias that were all done from seed here at the house. All of these are giant zinnias, but all different shades of kind of lime greens and pinks. Really, I think this is going to be a really interesting mix of colors together, kind of a peach color one as well. So I'm looking forward to these filling out. I will deadhead these as these first flowers happen. I'm probably just going to give them a haircut and get them to fill out a little more. But these will be looking great right through about the middle of summer, and then these tend to burn out a bit, and I've got some lantana that will take over this bed as these fade. In that same upcoming pruning video where the serviceberry is pruned, the Shasta viburnum was cut way back. It was all the way out to here, all the way up to here. I've still kept this layered look to it, and it'll flush right back out and bloom next spring. But I'm trying to lift up the plants a little bit to gain a little bit of extra planting space. Again, on a small urban lot here, I'd like to be able to tuck some things, you know, right up under the edges of some of these plants. I have not cleaned up the mess from pruning that yet. It needs to be done this morning after I shoot this video. Also lifted up the Miss Kim lilac. I started tree forming this last year, and then of course you're going to get branches that are going to weight themselves down and pull down under it. So it was lifted up again, and that's in a video. Probably you've already seen that video that I did that, but this thing blooms beautifully. It's in a part shade space over here. It blooms beautifully, but again, working on limbing it up into a tree so that I can underplant it with other shade-loving perennials. I was heading around the back to show off some things in the back garden, but I decided to stop here and show off this Edgeworthia again. I cannot believe how much this thing has grown. It was about this tall when it went into this spot, and it was, gosh, it had some flowers on it. I remember when I planted it, so it was probably like February, March of last year, and it was literally this tall. It was in a 1 gallon container. So this thing is loving this spot, and I don't know how much it's grown since it's leafed out, or since it flowered this season, over a foot for sure. Here's a plant that I really haven't shown off enough. This is a variegated hydrangea paniculata called Yuki Gesho. It needs some afternoon shade for sure. The variegation on this is almost white, very, very light color, and it will burn in the afternoon sun here in the southeast. If you're living a little further north, you could probably put this in a little more direct sun than I have it. It's in direct sun until maybe 1:30 in the afternoon, and then it's in part shade or high shade the rest of the day. But beautiful plant, and I haven't had a flower on this. It was planted 18 months ago or something. It was a very small plant. I like to, if I can find small plants, I like to, especially on something like a hydrangea paniculata, where it's, you know, it's such an easy plant to grow, really. I prefer planting a smaller one. I hope to get a couple flowers on it this season, but if I don't, why would it ever matter whether this one bloomed or not? And it's right next to a white wedding hydrangea that I know will bloom, you know, all summer once it gets started. But you can see the similar leaf on both of them, except for this is the variegated version of it. Somebody asked in last week's video about the little honey oak leaf hydrangea, and it looks great, except for, I showed in another video, it had another branch that came this way, and right there something broke it, and I don't know what broke it. Heck, it could have been me standing in these beds shooting videos. It does have a few flowers coming. It's a very small plant. Again, it was planted from a 1 gallon. The new growth looks great, and it looks good with this acanthus. I mean, sometimes when we're doing, you know, landscape design, you're looking for different leaf types next to one another, or different leaf, you know, if you'll move the camera back just a hair, Steph, they can see on something like this soft caress Mahonia versus this acanthus. So you have that different leaf shape contrasting with one another. But in this case, this oak leaf hydrangea has a very similar leaf, and these will get much larger as this plant matures to the acanthus. But you have the color variation between the two of them. So, you know, you can get leaf color or leaf shape, leaf type, you know, you can contrast foliage in different ways. I love this plant, and I'm going to let this branch just grow out that way. I've got new growth in the middle of it, so if I just simply cut it back right here, right now, it would fill out and be a more uniform shrub. But I'm going to let this one have some character and just have one crazy branch that runs off to the side, and we'll see how it looks later. If I don't like it, boom, I just cut it off. This early wonder camellia has put on about a foot of growth already since it came out. Camellia japonicas are typically pretty slow growing, but this one is in love with this space, and it's gone wild. This one bloomed for months and months. I just planted another one on a landscape project that you guys will see this coming week. Great plant. And also this is a Christmas jewel holly. I don't think I've shown this thing in a video yet, or maybe I did. It's in a container. It was in a container, kind of hidden behind the Sunshine Ligustrum last year. Moved it back here into this spot, and really like. I love this container. And then this holly has a kind of a pyramidal shape. I had it in a bit of shade, and so it's stretching, and it doesn't look like the pyramid it would look if it was in more sun. But I can go in here and prune a little bit of these crazy branches off. But I really like this holly. Great dark green foliage. Looks wicked, but it's completely soft to the touch. Somebody asked in last week's video about the Summertime Blues Vitex. It's looking great. I cut this thing really hard during the winter time in a few other pruning videos that I did. It's actually budded up, ready to get started flowering. I love Vitex. This is another plant that went into that same landscape job is that early wonder Camellia. So if you want to see that one that went in the ground at that job, that video will be up sometime this week. But this variety is called Summertime Blues. Great plant for pollinators. It can be a small tree or kept smaller as kind of a multi-stemmed shrub, if that's what you want. I'm going to wrap this video up with dahlias. There are lots of dahlias planted out here, some that were done from seed here and others that are hybrids. I really like this white one. Has some pink on the back of the flower. Really super impressed with that one. And the thing about these singles, all the flower parts are exposed. Some of the hybrid dahlias, as we'll see in just a second, the flower parts aren't exposed, so the pollinators can't actually get to them. Those are flowers for us. These are flowers for the bees, and the bees will just be all over these in the afternoon. I'm shooting this early in the morning. It rained yesterday, and so I don't have any bees out here this morning. But late afternoon, almost every day, they'll just sit on them. They'll park on them overnight frequently. Here's another one that's just opening. That's the color it's going to be. This isn't a great example of the flower, but more buds on it. I like this one a lot. Put a photo of that one up on Instagram. If you follow me over there on Instagram at HortTube, you can see some of these as they open up. Here's a kind of a semi-double, where this one's completely a single. This one's a semi-double. You wonder why all of these are different. They're different because these get mixed together, and the seed is different every season on them. Some of these, this one actually came back from last year's planting, and so this is one we knew what it looks like already. But this one is actually new. This is a new one this year, and this is from our seed, and it was done by, probably this one was mixed with something else and created this beautiful single with this, it's got pink striping in it. I really, really like that one a lot. These can be done from cuttings. I can take cuttings to get a clone for that same flower, or I can collect seed at the end of the season and get a mixture, surprise, surprise. Or they can be dug up and the tubers can be divided to get clones as well, where we would get the same flower every time. Another single with a slightly smaller flower, but as the plants mature during the season, they'll get bigger. I've got to do some staking on these. These will have to be, they'll get so tall that they'll start flopping over. Another one that we can't quite see right this second. This is bronze fennel. I'm sure somebody will ask a question about this. Great host plant for the black swallowtail, eastern black swallowtail, and then it's also when it flowers, other pollinators are on the flowers, and also just a pretty, a gorgeous landscape plant. Another yellow dahlia, again done from seed here. A pink, maybe these two cross together. Who knows what we get next year? And then this is one of the hybrids over here, and this is what I'm talking about, where they can't really get down into the flower parts on this one as easily. They can, I see sometimes they're wedging their way down in there, but it's a much harder thing to do than to just fly directly to this one. So there you go. Dahlias are starting to flower. Annuals are starting to come to life. I'll show more of that in the next week or two. I've been doing some pruning on them, so there's not a lot of color on them yet, but thank you guys for following along with these weekly landscape update videos, and lots more to come. Thanks for watching.